The day I walked into the city barefoot, I was on the news. The Cheney family's adopted daughter was kidnapped for months. She escaped back, dirty and smelly, with clothes torn apart and feet covered in bruises. No one could imagine what she had been through. Countless cameras focused on me. I watched the crowd like a walking death, as if there was no soul in me. The former Audrey Houston died. That shiny, innocent and passionate Audrey had gone. She was destroyed by those kidnappers, especially Jeffrey Cheney. Soon, a group of bodyguards dressed in black suits made their way into the crowd. The leader was called Cash Pearson. I knew him. In those 7 years, every time I pestered Jeffrey, it was him kicking me out of Jeffrey's office and apartment. Cash never showed politeness to me as Jeffrey ordered. "Miss Houston, Mr. Cheney is waiting for you in the car. Please." Cash was surprised to see me in such an embarrassed state. He didn't expect me to look this miserable. I nodded and took a step out of my injured foot, leaving bloodstained footprints on the road. I couldn't feel pain, and this small distance was not worth mentioning compared to my long journey of escaping. Cash walked behind me. He couldn't help but say to me, "Miss Houston." I kept silent. He pitied me? He should be happy that after this accident, I would never see Jeffrey again, nor would I cause Cash trouble. After getting into the car, I saw Jeffrey sitting on the seat with his eyes closed. His fine black hair was well groomed, and his delicate face was perfect. Well, during the time I disappeared, he must have felt unprecedented peace and relaxation. Now he was in such an excellent state. Hearing the noise, Jeffrey opened his eyes. The moment he saw me, he almost didn't recognize me. "Audrey." I nodded. I'd learned my lesson. In the past, I didn't care about the identity of the Cheney family's adopted daughter. I thought I was their real daughter, proud and domineering. But now, after I was kidnapped, I realized that my life was in the hands of the Cheney family. As long as Jeffrey refused to pay, I was doomed. He frowned, a little displeased. "How did you end up like this?" "Ended up like what? Beggar?" I fled tens of miles day and night. Besides the kidnappers, I had to watch the beasts in the mountains. When I was thirsty, I drank rainwater. When I was hungry, I went to rummage through the garbage on the side of the road. Nobody could stay rational in such a circumstance. I knew that he was blaming me for appearing in front of the media like this. It would bring trouble to his company, the Cheney family's company to be precise. Sorry. I was sorry for causing Jeffrey trouble. Jeffrey heard me say this. He felt stunned at first, and then the corner of his lips hooked into a smile. "She's right. You've learned your lesson." I couldn't understand what Jeffrey meant. When the car door closed, Jeffrey suddenly stretched out his long arm towards me. I instinctively resisted and cowered towards the corner. He then stopped and said in a disgusted tone, "Audrey, you're smelly." I didn't know if it was because of the confined space inside the car. Jeffrey finally sensed the unpleasant odor on my body. It was the smell of fermentation after mixing blood and sweat, rolling on the ground, and rummaging through the garbage. Hearing Jeffrey's words, I subconsciously left the seat. The car drove unsteadily, and I fell from the seat. "I'm sorry. I won't dirty the seat. I just need to. I just needed to kneel here. It hurt so much." On my knees, there were still bloody holes made by those kidnappers with thin steel needles. They blamed me for not getting money. To Jeffrey, I was nothing. They took it out on me to vent their anger. I couldn't stand up and simply sat on my knees in that small space. Jeffrey got angered. "What are you doing? Go back to your seat." He ordered me, but he didn't bother to help me. I listened to his words. I used all my strength to hold my body up and sit back down. My tears fell due to the pain and weakness. Jeffrey always neglected my tears. He felt bored. But this time he threw his handkerchief at me. I clutched that piece of clean white handkerchief. If it was before, I would feel happy as hell, but now that handkerchief only showed his disgust. Cash looked at me from the rearview mirror. I lowered my head. Perhaps he had never seen such a disgraceful and ridiculous me. We drove back to the Cheney residence. Jeffrey ordered someone to take me to the bathroom. I refused the servants' help, but I asked them to bring me a long dress from my old closet. After a while, they finally found a long-sleeved dress, similar to a student's suit. No one defined what a student should wear. But as I looked at myself in the mirror, I did look more like a student. Before I was kidnapped, I received an acceptance letter from a top foreign design college, and now it had been 3 months since the reporting time. Thanks. The servants were shocked, not expecting me to thank them. After the kidnap, I was essentially the same as them. They were the servants hired by the Cheney family, and I was the daughter hired. Pushing the door open, I saw Jeffrey standing on the stairway waiting for me. He half leaned on the railing and looked at me. He then snorted. "Audrey, what's wrong with you? Dressed like this?" "What?" Jeffrey thought it was another childish act of me trying to get his attention, but I just wanted to cover the bruises on my body. I followed Jeffrey to the dining room. It was silent until Jeffrey gestured for me to come forward. I saw the worried faces of Richard Cheney and Helen Drake sitting at the table. As soon as Helen saw me, she got up and rushed over. She was unsteady on her feet, and was supported by a woman next to her. "Mrs. Cheney, don't worry. Isn't Ms. Houston back intact?" "Miss Houston, Mrs. Cheney was so worried about you." I knew this young lady. She was Jeffrey's secretary. Joanna Wyatt was a beautiful blonde, wearing the simplest and plainest turtleneck sweater and jeans. There was a beautiful rose gold necklace hanging around her neck. I was intact. Joanna's words made me become the Cheney family's ungrateful daughter. In fact, I was a victim. Helen held my hand, crying. Joanna on the side comforted her. But I could not cry. I looked at Jeffrey. From his eyes, I could see annoyance. Finally, Richard interrupted. "Let Audrey have some food first." Helen wiped her tears. "Sorry, I'm so sad. Audrey must have been through a tough period. Come on, they made your favorite fish." Helen took me to sit between Richard and her. Jeffrey sat across from me, and Joanna sat next to him. What a loving family. I looked at the food. It smelt so good that I almost forgot what food looked like. What I wanted was to throw down my fork, grab it with my hands, and stuff it into my mouth. The closer it got to the downtown of the city, the stricter the hygiene control was. Gradually, I couldn't find any garbage. It meant there was no food for me. I was almost starving for 3 days and had to eat leaves to fill my stomach. Under the gaze of the family, I restrained myself and ate slowly. But I still felt Joanna ridiculing me. She used the fork and knife to eat elegantly. Jeffrey saw this scene. He was more disgusted with me. But as Helen asked, he had to take care of me. Now I could swallow a cow, but looking at the food he passed to me, I felt nauseous. "Audrey, try it. Jeffrey knows you like sweet food and specially asked them to prepare it for you." It was funny. Jeffrey didn't even know what I liked. On the contrary, I knew his preferences and his favorite color was rose gold. Seeing my hesitation, Richard asked with concern, "What's wrong, Audrey? What happened between you two? Did he bully you?" "Dad," Jeffrey interrupted. Perhaps he felt that Richard's words made him embarrassed, especially in front of Joanna. I shook my head without speaking, overcoming that nausea. I tried to eat it, but the moment I swallowed it, I spat it out. Jeffrey was stunned. I immediately stood up from the stool, holding my head and hiding in the corner. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll eat it. Don't hit me." Everyone was shocked. Helen's tears flowed down again. She came over to hug me. "Did those people mistreat you, Audrey? Tell me." Richard brought Jeffrey over as well. Richard looked anxious, worrying about me. Jeffrey, however, frowned and did not say a word. His face darkened. What did it mean? Didn't the kidnappers threaten the Cheney family, saying that if they didn't pay the ransom, they would never let go of their daughter easily? Why were they worried about me now? Actually, bad food wasn't an abuse. After all, I ate the worst. I was afraid that my life was in the hands of Jeffrey. The kidnappers had dealt with him and he chose to abandon me. I never knew he hated me so much. That was where my nausea came from, I guess. After dinner, I was called to Richard's study. Richard was not that decisive businessman in the company, but a patient and kind father, asking me, "Audrey, you've liked Jeffrey since you were a child. Do you still like him?" I shook my head. I liked him for 7 years. Humble and painful. I never gave up. But this time, I went through hellish torture. I didn't dare to like Jeffrey anymore. Richard got my answer, pondered for a moment, and regretfully said, "Never mind. Maybe you cannot be our daughter-in-law, but you will always be our daughter. You are good and beautiful. It is Jeffrey's loss. He took out a bank card from the drawer. This is what your parents left for you. There are $700,000. They asked me to keep it until you grow up.
$700,000.
The ransom was also $700,000. In the days of being kidnapped, I once resented my parents. Why didn't they take me with them, letting me suffer such torture? It turned out that they thought about my future life. They loved me. I tried to prevent myself from crying. Thank you. When I came out of the study room, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening, and I headed towards my room. On the way, I met Jeffrey. He spoke to me in an unexpectedly soft tone. Tonight Joanna is staying in your room, and you'll go stay in the guest room next to mine. So it was for Joanna. I nodded and started walking in the opposite direction. When I came to the Cheney residence for the first time, Jeffrey hated me and moved to the rooms farthest away from me. My room was decorated by a top luxury designer. The guest room was not. After all, I was in the Cheney residence. Jeffrey was the owner of the house. Suddenly Jeffrey stopped me. Audrey, are you a good girl now? I turned back and realized that his face was full of mockery as well as a bit of worry. I'm sorry, I said hesitantly. I had no idea what to say to Jeffrey other than to keep apologizing. This is the third time you've apologized to me today. You're weird. Jeffrey walked over, leaning down and putting his hand on my forehead. I stepped back. By the time I was holding onto the hallway railing, my legs were so weak that I could barely stand. Jeffrey looked at me like I was crazy, he becoming impatient. I said in a broken voice, I'll be moving out tomorrow. I've already told Richard. I thought that Jeffrey should be happy to hear that, but on the contrary, he became angry. Moving out? Why? Yes, Joanna will stay in your room for one night. But she's a guest. I shook my head in a panic. I didn't mean that. Jeffrey walked towards me with a gloomy face. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me towards the easternmost room. Come with me. I need to talk to you. Fear swept my brain. I pulled out the bank card Richard had just given me, saying in a broken voice, I'm sorry. I have money. Don't hit me. I have money. Don't hit me. Jeffrey looked back in shock. I was already paralyzed on the floor, and my wrists were still raised high in his cupped hands. Audrey, what are you talking about? By now, my lips had bitten purple. Looking at Jeffrey's gradually enlarging face, I recalled the kidnapper's harsh words. You are a dog of the Cheney family, pestering your master. Jeffrey, no, Mr. Cheney, I won't pester you anymore. I won't dare anymore. Jeffrey finally realized that something was wrong with my mental condition, and his movements became much gentler, wrapping his arms around my waist and picking me up from the ground. The feeling of weightlessness caused me to subconsciously wrap my arms around Jeffrey's neck. His heart was softened. Audrey, it's not that I dislike you. It's just that. Before he could finish his sentence, the door to the hallway opened. Joanna poked her head out of my room. Inside the lights were lit. She acted a little surprised. Mr. Cheney, Miss Houston. Jeffrey was displeased. You've got the room. What? Joanna replied in a sad tone. It's a video conference from the branch over in the Utah. You have to personally attend, Mr. Cheney. Jeffrey glanced at me in his arms and helplessly put me down. My body stiffened and I couldn't speak. You go to my room and wait for me, Jeffrey said and walked towards Joanna. The two of them entered the room and closed the door. The bright light disappeared. I felt relieved, but the cold sweat had long soaked through my clothes. Jeffrey wouldn't come back, because I knew Joanna. Countless times, such as my birthday and my graduation ceremony, he was called away by Joanna. Maybe he really wanted to leave. Neither did he want to come back. I had to leave as soon as possible. I needed to go to a place where there was no Jeffrey. I was afraid that if I kept being around Jeffrey, I would break down.